Okay, last week of November, I guess, finally we get to release F9. I mean, we've been waiting since the summer to release this one. It's great, right? Oh, what?
Dhar Mann! Dhar Mann just released a feature-length YouTube video. Eric, we need to do a podcast episode on this. We need to delay F9 yet again further. We need...
Yes.
Today it's Dhar Mann Day on Banquet at the Flum dumpster.
How drab, how dull critique can be. It's begging and pleading for apathy. The good, the bad, the in-between. And nothing is everyone's cup of tea. No time to waste, there's things to do. But Jared and Eric are happy too. They'll suffer the worst of films for you. So enter the strangest of banquet rooms.
Eric, it's here. I didn't think this would ever happen. I have been waiting for so long for us to have an excuse to talk about Dhar Mann. I've wanted for a while for us to talk about Dhar Mann on this podcast, and I never quite fully knew how we were going to do it. I knew that it was an inevitability. I didn't think that we would get a Dhar Mann movie.
See, I would even say that one of the reasons we started this podcast was to talk about Dhar Mann. Because, like, this is a guy, so, like, anyone who's watching who's not familiar with who this is, I just want to foreground, like, that this is a guy that we found, you know, like, a couple years ago.
No, like, not even a couple years ago. Like this is a COVID obsession that we have had since lockdown.
It's been a couple of years of lockdown, Jared. That was summer of 2020.
I am fully convinced that 2020 and 2021 are the same year. 2019 was a year ago.
Right, got it. Okay,
we can take this up. We can take this up in the special Cats episode in a few weeks if you want to. But I am of the opinion that 2019 was last year, and I am going to remain of that opinion.
Okay.
So, sometime within the past year, during COVID lockdown, we discovered this man named Dhar Mann.
Yeah, and so this is a channel that he makes 3 videos a week, usually in the, like, 5 to 15 minute range. This is his first foray into feature-length territory.
Well, that's debatable.
No, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Because that's for, like, a single video. He has, however, had specials where he had his Thanksgiving special, he had his Christmas special, he had his second annual Thanksgiving special just dropped. We are recording this on American Thanksgiving. And so it's like those were 90 minutes where a lot of it was just like kind of done, like a kind of talk back, like get behind the scenes with some of the actors and Dhar, and he talks about, you know, the videos a little bit.
Well, we only watched the first Thanksgiving special, and we didn't watch the other two because that first one was kind of borderline unwatchable.
Yeah.
It was so uncomfortable because it would be like his regular videos and then interspersed with him getting his actors to talk about really intimate, personal, traumatic details of their lives in a way that felt really voyeuristic and just like in the worst way possible. It was incredibly uncomfortable, and there were like actual tears that felt very exploitative. And I think that we both kind of agreed silently agreed after watching that special that we didn't want to see any more of his specials.
Yeah, because I think there's something to be said. So we need to talk about the fact that this is a channel that is very popular. And not as people watching it to make fun of it. People genuinely like this content. And we're going to have a full conversation, I think, about this in the second half.
I think
about like
I think that this
why.
is I think that this is a conversation to have at least part of in the first half, because I think that this I think that what is really interesting about Dhar Mann that we can talk about without talking about the text of the feature film itself, and I think that we do need to talk about it as a film. It's like in the video title, it does have the words in all caps, feature film.
Yes.
It is over an hour long, and I haven't started watching any of it yet, I promise, but Eric, I do have to share with you, the aspect ratio is incredibly cinematic.
Yeah.
It's
aspect
like
ratios, am I right?
aspect
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have a weird obsession with aspect ratios. I find them strangely fascinating. This aspect ratio is telling me something about this movie that I'm about to watch, and it's telling me that it's a movie. This is Dhar Mann wanting to make Dhar Mann the movie. And this is a tangent from what I actually wanted to get into. Because
I also want to just mention though with aspect ratios that while Jared is totally obsessed with them, I find it almost unnoticeable what aspect. There are like 2 times that I can think of that I've noticed an aspect ratio. One was in the Xavier Dolan film Mommy, where the aspect ratio changes halfway through the film, very noticeable. The other one was the Transformers movie. Where
the
it
most
changed.
recent Transformers movie.
Yeah. No, the one where in the middle of action sequences, the aspect ratio changed between shots. Just back and forth. And
is that the sound of the Transformers that you're making? Or is that the sound of the aspect ratio physically changing every 10 seconds?
That was the sound of your brain frying as you were beside me.
My brain frying as I watched each aspect ratio change. I do think that this is really interesting, though, especially, like, this is a total tangent now, but especially, like, feeding into our, like, film buff, film scholar dynamic, because I feel like you are so much more observant than I am, and you, like, notice these things so much more immediately, and this is the last thing that you notice about a movie, and it's the first thing that I notice about a movie.
Well, it's for me, I just look at what's on the screen. I don't really look at the presentation to the same extent. And I get that it's a big part of it. It's just something that like doesn't really register for me. Partly I think because I'm used to like when I grew up, I would watch stuff on CRT TVs when I'm pretty sure it just filled the screen whether or not it was meant to. And so I think I just conditioned to just not really be aware of that. Like the small differences.
But getting us back on topic, the thing that's really interesting about Dhar Mann is that his videos so consistently, every single time, work perfectly as Nanar.
Yeah.
And yet,
but at
the same time, when we scroll through the comments, people are taking it seriously.
Well, see, my theory with this is that, you know, we are not the target audience in terms of what we're watching them for is not like for lack of a better word, emotional porn of it.
No, but emotional porn is exactly what it is.
It is. But, like, that's the thing. Like, I don't like particularly saying that, but it's kind of accurate in this case.
I wouldn't even say kind of accurate. I think that the genre of material that we're talking about is emotional porn.
Yeah.
It's trying to initiate certain feelings, certain very specific feelings from its viewer, and it begins and ends with those feelings.
Mm-hmm. I know. I think that what's interesting is when you watch his videos, his like usual videos of not his specials, his usual 5 to 15-minute videos, you get the sense that like not only do they all follow the exact same formula, and when I say the exact same formula, he has become self-aware of how formulaic his videos are.
Eric, would you like to run down the general formula of the average Dhar Mann video?
Yeah, because we made you a parody video of the Dhar Mann video for your birthday, so I know the formula. It starts out where you get somebody who needs to learn a lesson of some kind. This could be a daughter who is unhappy that, like, her brother has gotten a PS4 and she's like, oh, this is all I got for Christmas and this is just like a dumb gift. Like, why should I care about this? And so, like, unappreciative children, or like somebody who needs to get their life back on track because they're like too lazy, or like a wife who doesn't think she's beautiful and therefore hires a prostitute to hit on her husband to see if he'll be faithful. That's maybe an extreme example, but it's not.
A man on a date with a burn victim,
yes,
who thinks that people who are burn victims are unattractive.
Yeah,
and then,
but that's the thing. There's always a twist in the form of usually a flashback. Any good Dhar Mann video has a flashback where somebody will come into that person's life, that person who needs to be taught a lesson's life, and teach them that lesson. It'll usually be, I have had this particular experience myself, and so you need to think of things from my perspective. And this is like a very tried and true Hollywood formula, Like, the Hollywood formula is basically done to tell people these moral lessons, usually based on, like, Christian values or the American dream, like some form of societally acceptable change that somebody has to go through. And this was like, old Hollywood did this a lot. Dhar Mann just does it in such a specific, every single way, the exact same way for every video in 5 minutes.
He's also efficient about it too, because like a 3-act Hollywood structure gets like condensed into like 5 to 10 minutes sometimes.
But you say that like it's a good thing. Like, what I think that the big thing with a Dhar Mann video that I'm excited to see what happens in a feature is that, like, on one hand, you do get a story that should not be more than 5 to 10 minutes. And sometimes they even feel like they're too long. But at the same time, like, it has to be brought down to the most basic level. And that's why it just fails so much for us. Is that it's so basic. It is talking down to you as if this is something that you will have never heard before. and in a lot of his, like, he's kind of gone away from that in his recent videos, but in a lot of his his earlier videos, he would have a title card at the very end that would just spell out the message, usually a quote from the video, where it would just take a line from the video that was just like, if they're not there for you at your worst, they don't deserve you when you're at your best. And something that's just like this catchy, like, thing that you can just take away and be like, now I can go and I safely... Not only have I learned something, but if I didn't understand what this video was about, now I do.
And I think that, like, the combination of the, like, the absolute unsubtlety of it.
Yes.
Combined
that is
with
a big key.
Like, nothing about these is subtle. Combined with the like telling you something that you already know, combined with the self-seriousness of it all, combined with the kind of really condescending tone with which it tells you something that you already know, makes these sublime.
Yeah.
But
and
I also
think that the one other caveat I'd add is high production value.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I think is a key element, is that this isn't like a YouTuber, doing like random videos that like bad Christian movies have this kind of quality usually, where it's like it looks like it was shot on like a video camera in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
This isn't that. He has a full studio with sound stages.
He makes his own sets. Yeah.
And he has actors who are like not terrible, not great, but right in that line of a workable actor who you're not going to like be taken out of the message usually. And okay, there's
that's the thing that makes these work so well as Nanar, is that it doesn't feel like I'm punching down at Dhar Mann when I laugh at him. Like, even though he did make that one video that was like, these two people make fun of a Dhar Mann actor for being on Dhar Mann because they think Dhar Mann videos are funny. Where we just like we watched ourselves our worst impulses reflected back at us. That's one of my favorite videos.
It is. But the thing is, one thing that I particularly, because we've kind of gotten a bit obsessed with this guy. We've watched a lot of his videos.
Maybe a little bit too many.
And that the other thing that I think is key is I'm not sure if he wants you to be watching all of his videos and figure out the formula. At least initially, I don't think that's what he wanted. I don't think he wanted you to figure out that there's like a Dhar Mann shared universe between all of the stories. Because that is my theory, is that because he has a stable of actors who are in so many different like videos, but all play some variation of the exact same role. Like, he will just be like, I need a mom who is this actor. I need a stepfather who is this guy, who I call Steve. He is the stepfather whenever he needs a stepfather.
I can actually share, Eric, that actor's real name is Colin Borden. I know this. I know this because I did look him up, because where you made me a Dhar Mann video for my birthday, I was planning to edit together a bunch of Colin Borden Dhar Mann videos for you as if they were one long feature. And I'm only telling you now because now I've started a PhD and there's no way that I'm going to have time for that anymore. And B, we already have our feature-length Dhar Mann video now. So I can share with you. His name is Colin Borden. I thought about doing this. I downloaded like 25 videos, and then I gave up.
Well, what you would notice would be he is always the stepfather and or husband of one of the two mother characters. And it's like, that's just his role. There's Brett, who I call him, who is just the jerk.
He's got like long hair.
Yeah,
we always name these actors after like the first role that we see them in. Like, we named Colin Borden Steve because one of the first videos that we saw him in, like his wife kept screaming at him like, Steve, you're cheating on me.
No, it was when it was like, this was one where like somebody didn't value her stepfather, like wanted her real dad to be more a part of her life, and she, like, her mother was like, okay, but you think about this. You know who was at your birthday? Not your dad, but Steve was there.
That was it.
Do you remember who was at your quinceañera? Not your dad. Steve was there. And what about Thanksgiving? Did your dad make the turkey? No. Steve did. It was something like that. And it was just like, and every time he came into the shot, like, hello!
But that's the thing. That's the thing about Steve, a.k.a. Colin Borden, is he has a very unique face.
Yes.
And by unique, I mean he has a very average-looking face, but he makes such distinctive facial expressions that he's just a joy to see on screen. I really hope
he's in this feature.
I so hope that he's in this feature. But I also really hope that as I say that, like, I don't feel like I'm punching down when I make fun of Dhar Mann, I also hope that, like, Dar, if you're watching, Colin Borden, if you're listening to us right now, if there are any members of the Dhar Mann fam who are listening to this episode, I hope that we are able to coexist. You know? I think that I don't fully understand the unironic appeal of Dhar Mann.
I do.
Okay.
I get it. No, I get from a certain level, sometimes you don't want to be challenged. You know, like sometimes you want a message that is so clear that you don't need to think like, oh, this is left up for me to interpret. Mm-hmm. And that there's like, YouTube is a platform that those kind of videos can exist on in a way that they can't really exist on other platforms. So like, this is a niche that people clearly want. They want to just be able to like relax, just watch something that makes them feel good, go to bed, you know? And I think that the fact that exists is great for those people. And the fact that it exists is great for us. Because we are people who like to read into text. Mm. This is a whole podcast where we take stuff that is probably not meant to be taken seriously and kind of take it too seriously. And so that's what I think we get from this.
That's a pretty good description of our podcast, that we take stuff that nobody ever intended for anyone to think about more than twice, and we talk about it for an hour. I like to think of our podcast as being like that one guy from TikTok that will like make like shitty sounding recipes from like the 1930s and be like, oh, this is a chocolate spam cake from 1927. I bet this one's gonna suck. And then he makes it, and then he eats it, and he's like, oh yeah, that was awful. And you get to see him almost vomit into his mouth. But sometimes he comes across something and he's like, oh, this was surprisingly good.
Yeah.
That's how I like to think about our podcast.
No, I think so too. I feel like it's we fit the same genre of, there's like a vague curiosity that people have, but they don't want to actually make that cake.
Yeah. But you get to
you don't actually want to watch most of the movies we watch.
But you get to experience us, you know, nearly vomiting into our mouth after we watch, I don't know, Child Bride, which I think we're dropping next week. I'm so sorry.
But okay, we need to watch this movie. We need to watch the Dhar Mann movie.
Is it time?
We have delayed it too long. I need to see what it is.
You're right. I need to know. Okay, I'm so excited.
Like, we were even going to watch it tomorrow night, and I was so like, oh my god, like I can't.
No,
wait
we
that
are
long.
And then
we moved it up.
We are fast tracking this episode to drop the same week that the video drops, because we needed to watch this movie immediately, and we needed you to hear our thoughts about it immediately.
So, without further ado, they won't come immediately, but after this short musical break, you will hear our thoughts about the Dhar Mann feature film. What's it called?
Girl finds out she's adopted. Full spoilers after the break.
Remain on the edge of your seat in a moment. Your hosts will return with the fruits of their suffering. Every last thought that is currently buffering too. The time has arrived, their opinions will now debut.
Steve was in it.
Okay. Sorry. That was our reaction from when he showed up. That we've maintained.
We had to make sure to get that out of our system. Colin Borden was in this movie. Colin Borden, if you are listening, please reach out. Come on the show. Talk about your favorite experiences working with Dhar Mann. I would love to know. I would love to know what it is like to work with Dhar Mann.
Genuinely. Like, this is not a joke. We genuinely would love,
I'm so curious about everything there is about Dhar Mann. I'm so curious.
But okay, I also just on just like the first thing that I want to talk about is just that we talked about the whole stable of Dhar Mann actors. It had Steve in it. It had everybody, like all of the regulars had at least a bit part in it.
Well, not everybody. It was a fairly small cast, and they had some like non-regular actors. They had a lot of the regulars. They had a lot of our personal favorites.
It's true.
They
didn't have Brett.
Yeah.
The jerk character, and they didn't have the blonde, like crop cut.
Yeah.
Girl.
I was expecting her to be
like the bad roommate or something.
I was expecting her to be the biological mom, and I was really surprised when she wasn't. Sure. Let's talk about the actors first, because we were running through some of our favorites earlier, and I think that the child actor who played Sabrina, the main character of this feature film, she's another notable Dhar Mann actor for how good she is at crying.
Yes, and they even kind of make fun of that.
They even reference it, but it's like it's something that like she's so good at crying that Dhar Mann like typecasts her in roles that are just like she just sits there and cries while some adult just like abuses her for 10 minutes, and it's really uncomfortable.
Emotionally or like
emotionally abuses her. Yeah.
Just want to clarify.
Yeah, but it's still really uncomfortable because she's like very good at crying on cue convincingly.
Yeah.
And it is extremely uncomfortable to watch watch her get berated and just keep crying. Just like not even try and hold anything back, just like full. These videos are so uncomfortable sometimes.
Sometimes. It's all part of the emotional porn. But this is the thing that this movie I think was built with her in mind. Like, this was a vehicle to like to really like give her like some time to shine, because this was about her. And I think that for, like, we can talk about the good things first, I think, which was she did a good job.
Yeah, I think that if I was going to pick any Dhar Mann actor to carry a whole, like, 61-minute film, it would be...
Steve.
Okay, after Steve. If I were to pick an actor for myself, for my own personal interest, it would be Steve, because I want to see Steve's face doing whatever Steve's face does every single day of the week. But if I were Dhar Mann and I were going like, okay, my fans want me to make some longer content, which actor do I have who can carry a movie? It's this girl.
It is. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
I think that like she does need a little bit more work before I actually want to say that like she's going places, because she does lean a little bit too heavily on the crying.
Well, she's at a level where if you mean go places, it could be like in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Or a soap opera. I could see her doing well in a soap opera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the level of quality that you kind of can associate with Dhar Mann, is this kind of at the level of a TV movie or soap opera. And I think that that's what's kind of interesting, is like you watch this, and this was kind of consistent with that in terms of a feature film that didn't really need to be as long as it was.
Yeah.
I feel like I came into it expecting a 10-minute, like what could have been a 10-minute video. I feel like what I got could have been a 30-minute video with all the same things.
Yeah.
But we can kind of get into that now. Like, why...
So wait. Does that mean that we're done with, like, the things that we liked about this movie? Did it begin and end with Sabrina's actress?
Okay, I will say, there was, like, about halfway through... There was like there was some tension around the mystery of who her birth parents were that kept me invested until, like, the birth parents were revealed and there was still, like, 20 minutes of the movie left. And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what else there is to do here. But we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think that there was a genuine, like, mystery that was carried forward in a way that was you could only do in a longer form narrative. Like, in his short films, like, that's where he would normally just, boom, we're going to get a flashback and reveal it, and it's a shock, this instant shock. This one didn't have that, and I think it's clear from the title. Usually, that a Dhar Mann title would be, girl finds out she's adopted. What happens next is shocking. Or, girl finds out she's adopted, gets mad at her parents, instantly regrets it forever.
Well, there is something to be said about how part of the Dhar Mann experience is getting clickbaited into it.
Yes. No, all, like, the clickbaity titles is how he has amassed a following, and it is how we were drawn into these videos, because it's like, what is this that's just, like, both in the thumbnail and in the video title, there's just, like, it's so much clickbait. It's like clickbait upon clickbait. And then this one, it's just, girl finds out she's adopted. Dhar Mann. Like, this is for the fans.
And there is, like, it's really interesting how girl finds out she's adopted is just, like, the title of a movie. Like, it's treated like the name of the text itself.
Yeah.
Even so far as, like, the last, like, at the very end of the movie, there is a title card that does just read in a plain serif font over a black background, girl finds out she's adopted.
Yeah. And then it credits 2 people, not a single actor.
And they go through these, like, gag scenes that are, like, bringing us back to, like, random side characters, like, pulling out jokes from, like, things that they said in their bits. And it feels like it was meant to go over, like, full scrolling credits, but just didn't.
Yeah, like, he was gonna have credits and then just kind of forgot. But he had these seeds still. But, you know, like, why credit editors, right?
Yeah, it also felt like they were supposed to have music going over them.
Yes, yeah. They felt like the kinds of scenes that you would see at the end of, like, a comedy. Of, like, oh, right, there's, like, oh, you remember that guy who in one of the scenes, they, like, stole his car? He's still looking for his car. Like, that was the kind of moment that it was, you know? It was like that, like, oh, right, I forgot about that part of the movie kind of thing. But yeah, I guess we should probably sum up the plot of this movie.
Well, one more thing that I think that I liked about this movie is the cinematography.
Okay, yes.
I think Dhar Mann walked into this going, like, I need to make this look different from my usual videos. I need to make it look more cinematic. And, like, his regular videos, like, they don't look great, but they look fine. Like, they look good. And this one, like, again, it didn't look great. It looked fine, but it looked fine in a way that had that extra level of ambition attached to it.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it felt different.
Yeah.
It felt different.
No, I like that a lot too.
The same kind of way.
I think that's how it created that emotional investment.
Yeah. Like, the same kind of way that, like, when you watch Sex and the City, and then you watch Sex and the City the movie, Sex and the City the movie, it looks slightly different.
Yeah.
All they've done is just, like, dialed up the contrast, but it looks different, and you're like, wow, I'm watching a movie right now.
Or, like, when you watch the YouTube channel Fred, and then you watch Fred the movie.
And then you want to die. Yeah.
And then you skip the second one and then watch Fred 3, Camp Fred. Thank you, Jared.
Hey, we were doing a Flumderdome. All bets were off.
That's true. But yeah, no, let's sum up the plot of this movie for those who haven't seen it, which honestly, probably a lot of people.
Honestly, is it worth it for you to see it? If you're a big Dhar Mann fan, go for it. But
in
like
the Dhar Mann fam.
No, if you're a Dhar Mann fan, if you are in the Dhar Mann fam,
that's what I just said.
No, there's a distinction that I'm trying to make.
That's what I said. I said fam.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the distinction. If you are in the Dhar Mann fam, you've already seen this movie before clicking on this. If you are a Dhar Mann fan and are considering whether you should watch this movie, my answer to you is,
Yeah. If you want to go in and watch something that you already can guess exactly what it is, you should watch this. Because after we stopped recording the intro and before we watched the movie, I did quickly say, this is what is the exact plot that I'm expecting. And we
should have recorded that because you laid out pretty much the entire plot beat by beat.
That's not hard, though. It's a Dhar Mann movie. I could do it now as well as I could before because it's exactly what you expected from girl finds out she's adopted.
Yeah.
Oh, the girl finds out she's adopted. She decides, hey, maybe I should go find my birth parents because I feel confused and I don't trust my adopted parents. Wait, my birth parents didn't want me? Huh, who could have guessed? I love my real, my adopted parents now even more.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the whole movie. That's, there are little beats that I'm leaving out of, the fact that, her dad was in prison. She found a sister who was also adopted and pretending that she wasn't. And then she finally meets her mom.
But those are just ways of padding the runtime of going okay, she finds out she's adopted. What does she do next? She tracks down her father. Her father's in prison. She goes to prison. The father sends her in the direction of her sister. She goes to find her sister. The sister points her to her mom. She finds her mom. Then she realizes that all of these people are garbage and she goes home to her real family.
But that's the thing. It's formulaic in a way that it doesn't follow the usual Dhar Mann formula. There was no so you see.
That's true.
There was no, grand reveal. It was a slow realization for her. Way too slow, you might even say. Because when you're standing in the home of a drug addict who's telling you, here, sleep on the floor, we have no food, I'm not going to stay there. And, I don't care if she's my mom. I feel I'll be this is not a good time. I should probably go back home for Thanksgiving dinner.
Wow, I really hope Eric's mom is not listening to this podcast episode. You wouldn't stay with your mom if she was a drug addict?
No, I would want to still be with, because I know my mom, I'd want to still have touch with her, but I would not stay there if I had other parents who I didn't tell I had left the house and was waiting there with a fully cooked turkey. No, I would not.
To be fair, her mom did, take her cell phone and was I'll bring this back to you, maybe.
Not take it. She said, hey, can I use your phone? And she was like, oh, sure. Nothing could go wrong.
I think that, I think that part of the problem here is Dhar Mann's instinct to dial everything up to such an extreme, because her staying with her birth mom for a little bit longer to pad the runtime would have made sense if the birth mom wasn't the absolute most extreme worst case scenario.
Yeah. No, this is she was the absolute extreme worst case scenario on top of her dad rejecting her when she visited him in prison. Mm-hmm. And her sister rejecting her and being like, no, you can never come back here and I'm never going to visit you. Like, those two things weren't enough rejection. She then needed to go and find the absolute worst case scenario. That's the level that we needed in order for you not to, like, think, oh, but maybe, you know, maybe, like, she should be with her birth parents.
And I that's what I'm saying. I think that, like, if they had drawn out that tension just a little bit more, if they had been, like, if there had been an element of, like, oh, you know, it could work out with your birth parents. Maybe. Yeah. Just a little bit. Like, have that not, like, I think that thematically it would not have worked if it was entirely ambiguous, but have, like, a brief moment of, like, a honeymoon period where, like, she meets up with her birth mom. Maybe her birth mom is, like, not as well off as her adoptive parents are, but, like, the birth mom is, like, getting by, and, like, she does her best, but she's clearly not able to, you know, fill the needs that Sabrina has. And Sabrina goes, like, okay, you clearly didn't want me. You're clearly not capable of taking care of me. And also I see that my adoptive mom has called me 200 times since I've left. Maybe she was the one who loved me all along. Like, that could have worked without dialing it up to 11.
I also, like, I would have loved, you know, even, like, something like what happened in The Good Place. And now, spoiler alert for The Good Place. Just out there, like, everything about The Good Place is a spoiler if you haven't seen it. So just, you know. I'm just going to say, here is the time code that you can skip to if you don't want a spoiler for The Good Place, because this is a slight spoiler warning, and Jared's going to come in right...
42 minutes, 35 seconds.
Thank you, Jared. But The Good Place does this thing in the end, like, in one of the later seasons where Eleanor goes to find her mother and finds out that her mother's, like, having a perfectly fine life with somebody else, and she's like, okay, but what's sad about this is that she was capable of being this person, but she wasn't that person for me. And if, like, that kind of realization of, like, oh, like, my mom isn't this, like, caricature of, like, you know, a person who gives up somebody for adoption, it could have just been something as simple as, like, no, I was too young, but your parents stepped in and they said they would take care of you and they love you and you need to go back to them. Like, they're your real parents. That is the powerful message that, like, if I'm somebody, and I know somebody who is adopted who loves Dhar Mann, who might watch this video, like, I haven't mentioned this before, but my brother we found out, is apparently a fan of Dhar Mann. And I, you know, we've said a lot of things about Dhar Mann fans on this episode.
Is he like an
my brother.
Unironic member of the Dhar Mann fam?
An unironic member of the Dhar Mann fam, likes the videos, and may watch this movie. And he's also adopted, but has known this, you know, for way longer. Because this is another thing, you know, having, like, been in this setting of having somebody who you're, like, you have that decision of when do you tell, oh, you're adopted. This was possibly the worst case scenario for how parents could handle.
Oh, absolutely.
Wake you up at midnight on your 50th birthday
when you have school the next day. No. First they eat cake at midnight after they woke her up at midnight. They eat cake, they say happy birthday, and then they say, oh, we've got something to tell you. Oh, but it should probably wait until the morning.
Yeah. Never mind, though. We'll tell you now. You're adopted. And then no further explanation. Can I meet my birth parents? No, we're not going to tell you who they are. Why? We're not going to tell you why. And then later on, she has to be like, "Oh, it's because you were protecting me."
No, but I want to stay on that scene for a minute because she had such an extreme reaction to that moment.
Oh yes.
And that's another moment in the film where Dhar Mann's instinct to dial everything up to 11 kind of hurt him, because I think that kind of extreme reaction only works if there's either the prior implication of, or we find out later that there was something going on at home.
Yeah.
You know? Like, there has to be something wrong with Sabrina's birth parents to push her to that point. There has to be, like, an existing tension there.
You mean adoptive parents?
Adoptive parents, sorry.
Yeah.
But, like, if they had established, like, oh, she wasn't super getting along with her adoptive parents, that would lay the groundwork for why she had such an extreme reaction. But her adoptive parents, they were just, like, they unambiguously loved her. And
they were presented as being essentially perfect, except for having not told her that she was adopted. Like, that was possibly the one thing.
There was one other thing, and it was that Steve wanted to eat Thanksgiving dinner before she arrived because he was hungry.
I thought you were going to say there was the one other thing, is that Steve obviously was having an affair with her sister.
You're going to bring that up now. I was just finishing my thought. No. Okay. So her sister comes in at Thanksgiving dinner to be like, I'm sorry I was so mean to you earlier. Can we be friends now? And she's like, yeah, of course. And the sister sits down at the table, and Steve gives her this look that's just like, that looks like they were having an affair.
Yeah,
off screen.
Why have you come here? What did my wife find out about you? Was the look on his face.
And then she's like, this is my sister Bella. And he's, oh, nice to meet you for the first time, Bella.
That's not exactly what he says.
No,
but it was in the tone of what he said.
This is my headcanon. Steve and the sister were fucking. It was happening. The sister was pregnant. It was with Steve's baby.
So a sister inside the sister, yes.
Yeah. But what I was saying is that, like, you like, on the one hand, I want to say, like, what are we expecting from a Dhar Mann movie? Are we really expecting nuance? Like, getting back to your point about The Good Place? But, like, on the other hand, is an hour-long episode of Dhar Mann not the perfect opportunity for him to explore the kind of nuance that is usually lacking from his videos?
That's what I would think, because, like, that's the thing is, if you want an emotional journey, you don't need to start with, like, I'm going to abandon my parents right now, like, because, like, I don't believe them anymore, I don't trust them. Like, that is, like, the absolute most extreme reaction that he wanted to, like, set forth the whole journey that she goes on. But she doesn't need to immediately go on the journey.
Yeah.
She doesn't, like, that's the thing that, like, in this, like, scene, that's the inciting incident of the whole thing of, like, oh, I thought, like, girl finds out she's adopted, inciting incident. You then can go on this journey at your own pace. You don't need to go, like, you like, why does she say, like, oh, I have to, like, go up to the attic and find a birth certificate or something? Like, it needs to be done. They make it so, like, she has to independently find all this information out because her birth parents won't help. But, like, I think there would be some kind of interesting element if you had, like what she was saying, oh, I went to this DNA website, but they won't give me results for 6 weeks. What would happen in those 6 weeks? She would calm down. You know, there would be this, like, festering thing. She would have to think about it. Then she would go find them. You know, like, there would be these, like, things that you could otherwise not explore.
Or, like, if she didn't have the initial extreme reaction and was just like, okay, let's go to bed and think about this in the morning, did the DNA test, got it mailed back to her, and then find that her adoptive parents intercepted the piece of mail and destroyed it so that she wouldn't find out who her birth parents were, that's the perfect opportunity to have that blow-up scene that we know that Dhar Mann wanted.
That's actually a great idea. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Dhar Mann, hire me as your script editor. I definitely won't make your videos more funny on purpose. Yeah, I'll also say that if you're listening to this episode and this is the first time that you've encountered any mention of Dhar Mann, don't start with this movie.
No, definitely not. No, like, there are a lot of videos that I feel like I find Dhar Mann just so interesting because he's created this entire channel that's just like that. This is what he does. This is like a full studio devoted to telling these very like clear cut messages and sharing them. Like at the end of his videos, he always says, or not as much recently, but like he would come in, he would say, "Remember, we're not just telling stories, we're changing lives." That's his express goal.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, that's, I guess, what he's doing.
Well, he's also a motivational speaker, too. We didn't talk about that in the intro. We missed a lot in the intro because we were so excited to get to this movie.
But there's a lot to talk about with Dhar Mann that we're not even going to cover because it's like, there is something really interesting about him that we can't cover in just an hour. Like, we're now talking about as long as his movie is.
Yeah, I think we've about hit that threshold.
And I think like there's nothing more we can really say without going into like a lot more about him. Like, we can do a very deep analysis of him, but I don't know if this is the time to do that because we're at the hour mark.
Yeah. So then I guess we should probably start wrapping up and ask, what have we learned today?
I think that it was very clear from the movie what we have learned, and that is family doesn't require blood. It just requires love. Because that was the entire message of the video. It was said like 3 times.
It was said twice. Once 3 minutes in, and again 3 minutes
repeated
before
back
the end.
To that character.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was our episode on Girl Finds Out She's Adopted. What happens next will not shock you because there's not a second part to that title. I have been Jared Aronoff. You can find me on Twitter at Jared Aronoff. I will not be tweeting at Dhar Mann, but maybe we'll tag him in the tweet about this episode.
Yeah, and I have an Eric Tish. You can follow me on Twitter at Dhar Mann.
It was you this whole time.
Hey, Jared.
If you would like to follow this podcast on Twitter, you can do so at Flum Dumpster. That's the Twitter account where we will be tweeting at Dhar Mann. I will not be doing that from my personal account. I hope that you are listening to this episode, Dhar, and I hope that you enjoyed us talk about you and make fun of your movie.
I mean, this guy pumps out 3 videos a week. He's got to be too busy to have gotten this far.
And the occasional feature film.
Yeah. I hope for a sequel, personally.
I really hope for a sequel so that we have more opportunities to talk about Dhar Mann, because I really do feel like we didn't get to everything here.
To be clear, I don't want a sequel. I want just like a fully new feature film about a totally different subject.
Yeah.
I don't want the feature of, oh my God, Steve got my sister pregnant.
I want that one. Dhar, if you're looking for someone to write a script for you, I will write that one. But this video was posted less than 24 hours ago, and it's already gotten well over 4 million views. I won't be surprised if he does another. We may very well record another episode about it, because I feel like there's more to say about Dhar Mann. Especially considering this episode is going to be going out very close to when we're recording it, which is unusual for us.
Yeah.
We were doing the wrap-up portion, though. Our theme song was composed by Tarquin Alexandra. You can follow her on Twitter at Tark Alexandra. That's TARQ Alexandra. And you can tweet at her about Dhar Mann. She won't know what you're talking about because Tarquin, fortunately, has better things to do than watch Dhar Mann videos.
Like her latest EP, A Tyrant's Demise, which you can and should stream on the music streaming platform of your choice.
Indeed.
We will also mention, because it did just come out, that you can stream Sad Karaoke's Do You Remember on Spotify, and you should, because that was the artwork that you may have been watching this whole time was created by the same person that created that song, among others.
Also including your literal wife.
Yeah, but she doesn't listen to these.
Do you think that in place of our usual end closing song, would you like to play out our listeners with that song that just released?
That's an interesting idea. That's something that we can, ask and then do.
Yeah. So
you will find out the answer to whether or not they said that would be a good idea for us to do in 3, 2, 1.
I hope you vote.
Hey, Flum Dumpster fam. I hope you love that message. Remember, we're not just watching movies, we're changing lives. And when you like, subscribe, and share our episodes, you're helping to change lives too. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next episode called Child Bride.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about Child Bride.